We got for you today the top 30 most powerful Naruto characters in the Naruto series. No Boruto, man. We ain't doing that shit. You know the Green Angel don't like that, right? We'll do that later. And you know what I mean if you're like a true Naruto fan or a person who continues to watch Naruto and stays loyal to the, shit, right? Because I'm waiting until, certain things happen in the anime. But for right now, it's just the Naruto Shippuden characters, the most powerful people, top 30. So at number 30, we got Mei, the 5th Mizukage. She has Kekkei Genkai, she has lava release, and she has steam release. She uses water and fire for the steam, earth and fire for the lava. And that's how she creates those. And she's like, I can make 2 Kekkei Genkais from the 3 chakra natures that I have. She fought against Madara. She was actually, stopping Sasuke a little bit on his way towards Danzo. But at number 29, I got Kisame Hoshigaki, right? He is the tailless tail beast. He fought against Mike Guy twice. Well, 3 times if you count that impersonation clone thing at the beginning of Shippuden, but I ain't gonna count that. He fought against Roshi, and he fought against Killer B. He was a truly loyal member to the Akatsuki. This guy, I think in another world, he could have been the Mizukage. He really could have. His water jutsu is just that, his attack power with that, pretty damn good. But people are above him, right? 28, I have Roshi. Now, you're like, what? Yeah, Roshi's above him. Roshi's now above him because people miss this one detail. Who was there the day that Kisame and Roshi had that fight? Itachi was. Now, we know how powerful Itachi is, right? Itachi fans say yes. Say, I agree with you, Green Angel, because guess what? Had Itachi not been there to back him up, oh my God, he would have been in for a real fight. Like, he already knew he was in for a fight, but this fight would have been like the end of him. It would have been high to extreme diff and in Roshi's favor. No genjutsus were cast before the fight, so now Roshi has the upper hand. That being said, at 27, I got Yagura. Yagura of the 3 Tails. Yagura of the 4th Mizukage. Yagura prodigy. He became Mizukage at a young age, just like Gaara became Kazekage at a young age. He was supposed to be a hope for the Hidden Myth Village, but unfortunately he got controlled by Obito. Obito got to him, manipulated him. And then when it comes to the 2-tailed beasts that reside in these Jinchuriki, right? The 3 tails over Son Goku low-key, because during the extraction process, the 3 tails got away. He got away, and then they had to go grab the 3 tails again. And that's Isabu, that's part of Yagura. But Yagura uses his power when fighting. If it's him and Roshi, it's a really close fight, but I give it to him. He was one of the Kages too. 26, I got Rasa. That's Gaara's father, right? He's at 26. He had to fight against the Shikaku many times to steal it back inside of his son. He uses gold dust to weigh that, monster down, right? And then he was revived, and he wanted to see if his son's faster. And, well, we haven't said him yet, right? So, Rasa's at 26. At number 25, I have Onoki, the fence sitter. Onoki lived through a lot of shit. He's seen Madara, and then when the real Madara showed, he was like, "Oh my God, that's real Madara." You know, he was fighting Mu, a guy who taught him the particle style. You know, and you know he then made it his jutsu, and he had years and years of experience. Even with that experience, though, he was still kind of struggling against his sensei and his predecessor, right? So Onoki also knows their style. You know, he fought against Deidara, and he also encouraged the Kage to keep on fighting. He's a stubborn ass old man. I got him at 25, but at 24, I got Gengetsu. He's the second Mizukage who fought against Mu. They both killed each other in that exchange. I got him at 24. He can cast Genjutsu with like mist, steam-like attacks. He has these clones that are very powerful. He creates explosions with these clones. You know, this guy is really, you know, he's kind of tough. You know, jutsu. But Gaara was able to beat this guy. Got him at 24. And then Mu, the Null Man, at 23. The Null Man was the last one left out of the revived Kages. He was then used to summon Madara. He was never surpassed by Onoki, by the way. You know, even with all those years of experience, Onoki never surpassed the Null Man Mu, right? He was able to get away. You know, you sealed away a clone, Onoki. I'm still here. I'm still running around. And then Kabuto sees the opportunity to use his body, right? But at number 22, I have Gaara of the Sand. You know, he is above all those people. You know, he sealed away his father, then he sealed away Gengetsu. Gengetsu is the same, or almost the same guy as Mu. Mu's a little tougher though, right? if you've seen what I've seen, right? Just by a little bit. It ain't like the wide margin now, fools. Gaara can beat that guy, but he can't beat anybody above him. Like the Raikage. Raikage A at 21. He was the fastest ninja alive until Naruto came up. You know, because Minato is dead. Right? Because of that, I have him at 21. He fought against all these tough guys. He never like beat these tough guys like Sasuke and Naruto, Madara. But he fought them, and he wasn't like losing to them. Like he wasn't he didn't go out right away. And I do think he's tougher than everybody beneath him. He could beat them. But and this is the top 20 now. We got Hiruzen. Hiruzen, the third Hokage, the professor. He knew all 5 natures of jutsu. And he taught the 3 legendary Sannin, and they went on to, train people, right? We're not using Prime Hiruzen. Why? Because we don't know what the fuck he was doing. We just know that he was, we knew he was somebody, but we never seen that ourselves, right? Never shown up on the anime, never shown up in the manga. We have Hiruzen as an old man. Still doing shit, right? He was still fighting against Orochimaru, who had summoned, the previous Kage, his, sensei and predecessor, right? And he was able to put them away, and then he tried to put Orochimaru away too, but he didn't have enough left. He's too old. But then he came back to life, right? Reanimation, right? As a zombie. He was able to fight against that one statue that was shooting out different, natures of jutsu. And he was countering that with his own. He even saved Naruto too. He was quick enough to, grab Naruto. He was like, "Oh man, third." He's like, "Yeah." I'm back, but he's at number 20, all right? I got Jiraiya, the Gallant, at number 19. Jiraiya surpassed him, and if Jiraiya surpassed him, don't be surprised if you see the other two on this list higher. Jiraiya trained Minato, he trained Nagato, he trained Naruto, and he was a sage. He wasn't like the best at using his sage mode, but he was like, decent at using it, and he was using it against pain. He killed one of the pains, and he was learning about the other ones. Some people believe with correct time he could have beat pain. I don't think so. That last one, because that last one, it's like, he probably could have beat 5 of the 6 at best. But he was still a, powerful shinobi. He could beat anybody beneath it, on this list. But at 18, I got Tsunade. I know people are like, what? That girl? Oh, she can't do that. Oh, yeah, she can. She's a recoup specialist, and she is like brute strength. She knows how to like use her chakras to increase her strength, right? Jiraiya even said, right, he was like, there was 2 times in my life where I almost died, near-death experience, right? It was against Naruto, when he went and took on that blood form in Four-Tail State, right? During their training, and then during Tsunade, he had said something, that he shouldn't have said to her, and then she got pissed. She damn near, ended his life. It's that brute strength. She gets it from her grandfather. He knows, man. Stop sleeping on Tsunade, y'all. She's at 18. She was healing people. Now I know the pain situation was kind of like, a little bit of a blemish, but she was sending Katsuyu out everywhere. She was like, Katsuyu, you get to everyone. Kakashi, anyone. She was more concerned about that. And then during the war, she locked the fuck in against Madara. She was breaking through that Susanoo. No, she didn't beat him. That's why she's at 18. At 17, I got the Third Raikage, who got reanimated. In his lifetime, he had to fight against the Eight Tails. A lot. He had to tussle with the Eight Tails. A lot. And then he would box him in. He would, come back out. He would be rampaging and shit, right? But eventually Killer B came, and he was like, I don't have to do that shit anymore. But then the war started, or it was, coming to a close. But he had to protect his people. He said, go back home and, my son, right? Just let me handle this shit. And he stood in front of like all those shinobi by himself. And it was a lot, like 10,000 or some shit like that. And he fought for 3 days, and the only reason he lost is because he ran out of chakra. And also, the only scar he has is on his chest, which he gave himself. And it was this piercing technique. It took Naruto to defeat him when he became a zombie. So I put respect on his name. Number 16, though, I got Kabuto Yakashi. Kabuto Yakashi, he obtained Sage Mode. He, did his fucking studying on Orochimaru. He learned the reanimation jutsu. He even brought back Madara. He had Obito looking like, what? He said, how do you find that? He's like, hey, man, I won't say anything. We're just partners, right? He was running the war. All those reanimated shinobis you can thank just this man for. He surpassed Orochimaru and the second Hokage at using that jutsu. He's the best at using that shit. Don't ask, you've seen the results of that. Kabuto fought against Sasuke and Orochimaru. Or goddamn, Sasuke and Itachi. He was using Orochimaru's jutsu during that fight. He was using the Sound Force jutsus during that fight. You know, he was pulling out all kinds of shit on him. You know, and honestly, like they were both of them were more powerful than he was. He was backed into a corner, and he was standing on that fucking corner. You know, for as long as he could until the Genjutsus came out. I put respect on his name, even though he was a villain, and he also kind of wasn't accepting himself. That's what Itachi told him. Kind of like fuck with his head a little bit, but it was the truth. Um, at number 15, though, I got Orochimaru. At number 15, Orochimaru being here because, damn, Orochimaru is just a guy. Like, you can't kill this man, right? He was alive. He killed Hiruzen. He trained Sasuke, tried to take Sasuke's body, but he incorporated something into the curse mark to where he could be revived. Sasuke, thinking, brought him back to life. He then resurrected the Hokages, and he was able to suppress all of them, keep them from running around how they felt like, right? Except here, Hashirama. Hashirama was, playing the fool because he actually could break the binding, even though Orochimaru had the cells of Zetsu, who had, Orochimaru or Hashirama's cells inside of him. He was brought back from the Zetsu body. But even so, Orochimaru's at 15, because 14, I got Killer B. Killer B is at 14. He killed Sasuke, almost killed Sasuke on, in the same day twice. Then he fought against Kisame, fought against he fought against Itachi and Nagoto with Naruto by his side. He skirmished with his brother a little bit. But not going all out because he didn't want to kill his brother. He was just letting him know, hey, this is our fight too. We ain't gonna just sit back and watch people die when we have the ability to fight for ourselves. Naruto got 2 sons in him, not just one. That kind of shit, right? Talking to his brother and shit to be like, we can fight for ourselves. You don't have to fucking protect us or anything. We can fight. Now, number 13, we got Tobirama Senju. Tobirama Senju is a great sensory ninja, water jutsu specialist, and also created some jutsus, flying Raijin jutsu, reanimation jutsu, and shadow clone jutsu. Now, there are people who came around later who do use the jutsus better than him, and they do. But he knows how to use them because he invented those jutsus. He's the creator of them, right? And then he's a water jutsu specialist. He won't stray away from fighting somebody who has the opposite affinity. He grew up in the Warring States period, so he's like a warrior, and he is. But he ain't beating anybody above him. Like Itachi, for example. Itachi Uchiha is at 20. He's at 12 on this list. He ain't higher than 12, y'all. The people above him are just above him. And once I name them, you'll be like, yeah, I think you're right. Itachi Uchiha was a prodigy too. He awakened the Sharingan young. He then awakened the Mangekyu Sharingan upon the death of his friend and the death of his clan. He joined the Akatsuki. He helped catch a couple tail beasts. He even seen Naruto a couple times. And honestly, he could have caught Naruto. And he could have. But he let him get away. When he was close to death, he, fought his brother, died. He was reanimated. He was smart enough to think ahead. He put the eye of Shisui in a crow, and then he, was ordered to, protect the village, and basically it broke him out of the control of Kabuto. He wasn't being manipulated by Kabuto no more. He went to fight Kabuto, and honestly, he could have beat Kabuto by himself. Sasuke was there making it easier for him to do what he had to do to stop him, y'all. That's the truth. You know, he made it easier for, Itachi to get in on him so he could use Izanagi. That kind of thing. Because if he pulled up by himself, he still would have won, but it would have been tough. A longer fight, and, he might have been able to, like, put Itachi away, possibly, you know. But, Sasuke being there helped him out a little bit. But even with that, he's still a powerful man. He has a Tosuke blade, Susanoo, Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi. Those moves are like nothing to sleep on. But the people above him are above him for a reason. Nagato is one of those guys, right? Nagato, the era he had, right, and like how he uses his power and shit. Personally, what I see, you have the ability to use those bodies and shit. Now he could have been like more reasonable, but he was also young when he did that. He had lost his friend Yahiko, so he was in a rage and he was like, "Oh my god, I'll stick all these chakra rods in my back and just, I'll control bodies after that." And it made him weak, but he was still, catching tail beasts. He caught Utakata and he almost caught Naruto. Now that almost would have been a fucking yes if he went there himself. Like Nagato, no pain, none of that shit. Just him with his red hair and his Renegon. Because when he was resurrected, like, this man was not playing fucking games. He was like, I can't control myself. You guys have to, like, really, fight me and shit because I'm not playing games. He started, extracting their souls, both of them. Killer Bee and Naruto. The only way they got away was because Itachi was there. And Itachi was in that fight too. Had Itachi not been there, Naruto would have packed them both up. And that's the truth. Some people can't, they're still under Itachi's Gengetsu. They're like, no. But yeah, Nagato's built like that. And now we're in the top 10. We got Hashirama at number 10. Hashirama Senju fought against Madara on multiple occasions. He has healing jutsu just like Tsunade. He's actually better at healing himself than Tsunade. He died, he was a grandfather and shit. So he was old, but he didn't look old. That's that regeneration. That's that, Madara regeneration, right? And he's better at using it than Tsunade is, yes. And he's also, a wood style jutsu order. Water and earth style creates wood style. It's hard to, like, replicate his jutsu. So people are stealing his cells and shit, right? Creating renegons. If you're a Chia, mixing your blood with that shit, right? Then you can get the renegon. That's what, Madara's aim was. He was brought back to fight against Hiruzen, but then he was also brought back during the Fourth Great Ninja War. He fought against Madara. He was doing all right as, Madara was revived too. Even when Madara was using, the same jutsus as Hashirama, he was still in that fight, he's the first Hokage. He suppressed the Nine Tails, sealed it inside of his wife. This guy is known as the God of Shinobi. Man, there's nothing else, man. You just better know that's Hashirama Senju at number 10. And then at number 9, we have Minato Namikaze, and, everything we've seen in the anime, right? We've seen him as a live man without Kurama's chakra beat Obito, who is, not as experienced as he is currently, but he defeated him. And then he sealed the Nine Tails, half of the Nine Tail chakra inside of himself. He then was reanimated, and he was using, all the moves that Naruto was using, some of them, basically he was like another Naruto on the fucking battlefield, basically, and he was doing that shit. He was using the Nine Tail chakra to fight against Obito. He was, doing his thing, I do have him above Hashirama because he has the Nine Tails cloak and the Nine Tails chakra, in his, Edo Tensei form. And I do think he's more powerful than Hashirama with that form. But at number 8, we have double Mangekyu Sharingan Kakashi, right? Because that's him max the fuck out, right? We know that he has Kamoy and he had it the whole time through Shippuden. He was using it. He was copied, hella jutsus, right? Then he got double Mangekyu Sharingan. So guess what? He has Susanoo. Shit that Obito was supposed to have, but he never had both eyes. at that, like, to where he could do that, right? Kakashi gained that in the fight against Kaguya. He was able to, warp her arms away so she couldn't fight. She had to, like, try to get away from that shit, right? And he basically helped Naruto and Sasuke, beat Kaguya. The Kamui shurikens are nothing to sleep upon, and he has his own Susanoo. Now that was only temporary, but that's still, power that he obtained, and he was like that in that form. Now at number 7, we got Mike Guy. All 8 gates activated, boy. In that state, he was the strongest, and that was stated by Madara, who was then the Ten Tails. He was like, I declare you the strongest shinobi of them all. And he's fought in many of battles, many of wars, and he fucking, spent facts, man. He spent facts on that day. Mike Guy was like, staring. He's like, we all come to that point where we have to, do what we have to do. And that's what he did. And he locked the fuck in, and he defeated, he almost defeated Madara. Had Madara been alive, he would have killed Madara. He would have won. But Madara was a 10-tail, so he definitely lost, right? And he almost died that day because it is the gate of death, and he knows what was supposed to happen to him. But he was cool with Naruto and other things when he was all said and done. Mike Guy is at number 7. His 8-gate state. And then Obito, 10 tails Obito's at number 6. He's an imperfect 10 tails Jinchuriki, but even with that, he was still fucking people up. They couldn't put him down. Naruto had to talk to him. He had to go inside of his world. They realized that Obito couldn't manage that, the imperfect 10 tails form. He was still, holding his own against all the Kages, Naruto and Sasuke. Naruto and Sasuke had to use texts for Naruto to even get to him and be like, hey, remember when you were Obito Uchiha and you were doing this and that? Whatever happened to that guy? I would have actually loved, knowing that man, or who that man, or who he could have been, but then you became this guy, and, all that shit that Naruto does. Obito's at number 6, though. He has Kamui and access to Rinnegan too, right? His most powerful form. Hagaromo, the Sage of the Six Paths, is at number 5. Hagaromo learned Sage mode at Mount Miyaboku from that old sage before he was old and shit. He wanted to learn the truth about what's going on with this, these girls. One of them bitches, became, tree food. And he was like, fuck, he opened the Sharingan. He was like, brother, we have to stop our mother. And he's like, no. He got controlled by, Kaguya. He had to kill his brother and bring him back to life. Then he proceeded to fight his mother for 10 days, brother. 10 days, man. And Hagoromo was the god of shinobi. He's the one who brought Ninshu, the ninja creed, to people. He basically created jutsus. And, people started doing that shit, right? All kind of people started doing it. But Hagoromo, there's 4 people above him, man. And in Naruto, it took him and his brother to box in Kaguya. You can't debate that. That's definitely what happened. He had 2 sons, and those 2 sons, went on to, become the, father, the Uchiha clan father, Senju clan, right? But at number 4, we have Sasuke Uchiha. Sasuke Uchiha is the reincarnated of Indra. He's the deuteragonist of the series. He's that guy that, he's that counter to Naruto, right? He's been there the whole time. He's actually been ahead of Naruto for most of the series, till Pain. When Pain came along and Naruto beat Pain, that's when he finally surpassed Sasuke. Not before that, y'all. Like, watch the fucking series. You know him, right? Sasuke has, the 6 Tomoe Rinnegan, and he has the EMS in the other eye. And he fought Naruto, in Final Valley. They basically tied. The only reason Naruto wins is because Sasuke wasn't evil anymore, or he wasn't on his kill everything shit no more. That being said, Naruto's at number three. Naruto is the main character of the story. Of course, he was gonna be on this list very fucking high. He has you know access to Kurama, Sage mode. Sage 6 Pass mode. He fought against Madara, Kaguya. He boxed Kaguya in, and then he proceeded to fight Sasuke at the end of it. He never gave up. Throughout all the whole series, he's a great inspiration to a lot of people, right? Naruto fans specifically. If you're watching this, you're a Naruto fan. I got him at number three. I don't think you're gonna hate on me for that. Maybe you do, but let's be honest. Madara is at number two. Madara and his 10 tails format. Because like Hagaromo, right? He's like, okay, he's becoming like my mother. He said that in the dub. He's becoming like my mother was. He's trying to put all these people into like trees and siphon off their energy to create some kind of fruit or something. He's like, we need to stop this guy. I need you to box him in. He knew that Hagoromo knew that the powers to beat Madara lied within Naruto and Sasuke. It wasn't just one of them who could beat him. And that was true because both of them were needed to seal him away. He was becoming like Kaguya. And that's why Kaguya is at number one. Kaguya Utsuki. They didn't outright beat her. Like, her sons couldn't outright beat her. And then fucking Naruto and Sasuke couldn't outright beat her. They had to box the girl in. They had to box that hoe in. She didn't die. Honestly, I'm surprised they haven't like brought her back into the fold in Boruto. Because that's what needs to happen. They need to bring her back if they want to like add some like extra suspense and like make them more powerful over there. Bring her back and she's still like fucking people up. You know, you know, no cap, man. That's the truth. But that's the list. The top 30 most powerful Naruto characters. No Boruto included. Let me know what you think in the comments and be cool. Call in the corner.